Up to 30 minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television. Before we went on the break, you are telling me details of what you did to make Plateau relatively peaceful under your tenure. And you are just mentioning that NGOs gave you some ideas.
Exactly.
You also asked all the different groups, ethnic groups, 53 or so you said, to all say what are their concerns, which obviously you must have been addressing.
Yes, and we also set up several measures. Now, at the time I came, this conflicting tribes were the Beroms and the Fulanis, seriously at war with each other, the Beroms and the Fulanis. And you must understand that even when we went into the election, the Beroms did not vote for me. They did it because they said I'm too attached to the House of Fulani, so they will not vote for me. But immediately I was elected, the first appointment I gave was to the Berom. I gave them the secretary to the government.
So you showed some statesmanship.
Yes, they were shocked. And when I came back, to the Hausa community in Jos, I gave them a commissioner. And they were very comfortable with commissioner. It was think of joy, not because the man was commissioner, but because they have recognized them in government. I think that was the first time they were having a commission.
But there are still some pockets of dissatisfaction.
Of course, in Nigeria, people, politicians, if you give him 100 today, you ask for 101. So those are some of these pockets of problems that we have. It's not that, but for Just Not, of course, Just Not used to be the boiling point. You dare not even conduct an election after that crisis. But you realize that last year, we did an election that nobody even very free an election and peaceful election in Jos, and we elected the chairman of Just Not. Today they have a chairman in Just Not. So they were even surprised that they will even conduct an election.
But I did hear murmurs of complaint that even the election was kind of fixed, that it was made to achieve a certain result.
Not that made to achieve a certain result. If you go into an election and one political party, we've had that experience in Zamfara, when there was no much crisis, for procedures, they were lost. APC lost the whole election. And there was election by PDP. In our own case, we started an election, and because we were not the cause of that confusion in the other party, the other party were already in crisis between, I will say, General Hussaini and two soldiers. General Hussaini had a faction, and Jang also had his own faction.
Governor.
They couldn't agree. All of them went to court. They were battling the matter in court up to the time of election. And then the court gave judgment and said they didn't have executive. They will not participate. It wasn't that we stopped them from participating in the election, but we were ready to win that election. There's no way they can even win the APC in Just Not. There was no way they will win APC in Just Not. At the end of the day, the court said they are not going to participate in the election, and we put in all the necessary measures to ensure that the election was peaceful. The election was peaceful.
One key concern, since even before you became governor in Jos, is the issue of the bond market.
Yes.
And now at the tail end of your own tenure, that's getting into the 8th year, that market rebuilding hasn't started.
Yes.
There are only plans to start it. Why is it so?
Well, I just finished the final discussion for the rebuilding of that market. There were so many things that were done in Just Not. First, I spoke about the issue why, when you asked me what happened, I think one of it was to the creation of what we have, peace building agency. That's the only one that we have in the nation. And when I sent it and the report was sent to Mr. President visited Jos himself and commissioned that peace building agency. Today, Plateau State is the only one that has a peace building agency established by law, bringing people outside, because I said some of these conflicts, it's not something that you do give it a political attention and then you forget about it. Those people will remain there, the conflict will remain there, and because of that, we have a peace building agency that is always at the forefront and ahead when there are conflicts in some place.
And the issue of rebuilding the market didn't feature?
The rebuilding the market is part of the conflict. I see it as part of the conflict. Because at the time that this market was born, a lot of people were left on the street. Maybe those who had a lot of things there, they lost their things, and then there was no compensation. And of course, these people were aggrieved parties. So you go to Jos, you find people trading on the street. You find a lot of people left the place because the market was no longer there. This market was giving us paying salaries in Plateau State. We were paying salaries from the market proceeds, the revenue from this market. It was our major source of revenue, part of our major source of revenue.
So do you reckon it will be rebuilt while you are still?
By the grace of God, because I started this struggle almost 6 years today. I was going everywhere. I went to China, I went to US, I went to Britain, everywhere. I met a lot of people. I met big people, big men. I met Dangote. I went to Lagos to see Dangote about this. I met people like Janatu Adanjuma, who had a lot of shares that time in ShopRite. I said, let somebody come and help me build back this market. Until recently, when JH Bank agreed to come and build the market. So we just finished the agreement today. And by tomorrow, I've asked them to bring me a memo I sign. And then they will do the groundbreaking of the rebuilding of this market. And my ambition is to see this market before I leave office.
So it will be completed within your
by the grace of God. That is the agreement. So we are not bringing money; they are bringing their money to build the market, and then there is a sharing formula for distributions to all. So the moment people heard that the main market was going to be rebuilt, there was joy in Plateau State. So I can tell you that was part of what brought me as a governor too, because on the eve of our debate for final election, my opponent was on the other side, and it was a radio thing, live radio like we're doing. It was a live radio broadcast and television in the state. So the first question they asked was, they asked him, do you want to rebuild this market? Look at the market. Look at the state of the traders. What are you going to do about that? He said, no, we're not rebuilding that market. It's not important to us.
So that you are rebuilding it is like one of your legacy projects.
The moment they asked me, I said, no, that's my priority. The first thing, we must build that market. If we want revenue, if we want income that will come into the state to do infrastructure. I didn't know that. Immediately I said that. It was like Nigeria scoring football with Brazil, defeating Brazil at the World Cup. So they said there was just shout in the town, but I was inside the studio. I didn't know until I went out. Everybody, including even people who are marketers and all, they say you have won this election because you said you are going to do market. The other one said you will not construct market.
What else then will be your legacy? This is one, the market, if it happens.
Yes. First, I always preach about peace. I say if I leave Plateau State and we go back to where we're going, where I left, it will be very, very unfortunate. I've done a legacy that I will sustain. The next governor will be able to sustain that peace.
Is that why, because you've concentrated on peace building, that there is the criticism you've done fewer capital projects?
Yeah, no, not fewer capital projects. Today I have legacy projects. In these legacy projects, if I finish them, I don't think I don't want to say I'm competing with past
Can you
governors.
mention 2 or 3 because maybe the audience may want to know?
In the legacy projects that I have first, let me tell you, I've built the best high court complex in the whole of the north, and if not the second or the third in the whole of the federation.
Okay, that's
it's almost ready for commissioning now.
Right.
The high court, that is judiciary, for the judiciary. Now, aside from that, you know, priority must always be given to health and education. I have now 6 secondary schools of international standard. They call it Lalong Legacy Project. 6 secondary schools of international standard, 6 primary schools of international standard, and 6 hospitals of international standard.
You haven't mentioned anything on agriculture, and it's like the mainstay with the kind of climate.
No, I'm talking about infrastructure now. I'm talking about infrastructure.
Right.
Because if you are talking about infrastructure, those are infrastructures. A lot of them are even between 70 and 80%. Money was already there. We had a problem with our first contractor, which we terminated. Now we have done everything, and just today we approved to give the contract to another person, and he will start immediately. Agriculture, I had to bring consultants from the UK, and those consultants came and said, your priority in this state is agriculture, solid minerals, and tourism, because of the weather. Now, because of that, I was rushing up and down to Abuja. You won't believe, the president even designated our airport. They've approved our airport as international airport for agricultural produce.
So has anything been done concrete, like regarding helping agriculture beyond the airport, something you can feel and
in
touch?
Agriculture, you can go Plateau is either number 1 or number 2. The time they did rice pyramid there, it was a problem for me when I went back, because that time I was not privileged to attend the pyramid. I traveled out. And so when I came back, my people came and said, Your Excellency, we are not happy. This pyramid should have been done in Jos. I said, why? They said about 40% of the rice that was displayed there were all rice that were brought from Plateau State. I said, so you can now see what you are doing. In potato, African Development Bank, we attracted African Development Bank that sponsored our state. Now our state is almost 80-something%. Everywhere, rural areas producing potato. And Mr. President was on my neck. He said, you must produce this potato. You must export potato before I leave, because every morning I must eat potato. I want to eat potato. So as it is today, Plateau, the potato is almost getting ready.
You will start exporting?
No. We'll start production first.
Right.
Even the new species of production, they say it is in Plateau that you get that species of potato. The one is that is like yam, very big like this, that like yam. So in terms of that, we had potato. The potato value chain has gone a long way, and today Nigerians and even African countries are anxiously waiting for when we'll conclude and have the opportunity to start producing agriculture.
This program will also anxiously wait for that day.
Yes.
When probably Trust Television will be there to report the
you will be welcome. And we move also into solid minerals. The solid minerals that was abandoned in Plateau State, we've gone back to it. We resuscitated the moribund company, and today we are far. We are almost getting preparing to attract a lot of revenue through solid minerals. When I came on board, the revenue for Plateau was not up to 500 million. But today we've almost hit 1.5 billion. And if not for COVID and some of the interventions that happened, our target was that today in Plateau will be around 4 to 5 billion revenue. That was what Lagos did. What was Lagos did. We now brought out a formula that Lagos is even coming to study from Plateau as it is now. They brought their people to understudy what we are doing in revenue.
On that note, I'm afraid we've come to the end of the allotted time for this program.
Yes.
Your Excellency, we appreciate the time given to us.
Thank you very much, and also opportunity, and I congratulate you for introducing the television, because Daily Trust has always been my people.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Viewers, we've come to the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Keep a date with us.